I'd first of all like to welcome you to the platform for this chat. It's amazing because we've spent a lot of time over the years talking about Nigeria. You know, we talk about the good things, we talk about the bad things, and what we know for a fact is that a lot of these conversations are lost, especially in pubs, in bars, you know, and in beer parlors, right? We know there's a lot of value in there, but the truth of the matter is a lot of people are not ready to amplify their prowess. They're not ready to engage and enhance that engagement for the betterment of the next person. Some people simply don't have the means. Majority of us simply don't want to. But there's a selected few that actually know that, hey, look, this engagement are valuable. They're not commercially driven, that's key. They're not commercially driven, they're centered around value and impact. And they can be influential if channeled through the right path. So that is what we are trying to unlock as we converse. That value within our conversations that goes under the bus sometimes, that goes in the bar, that stays in the bar. Let's bring them out on a personal level, as a collective, and definitely as a platform to drive a new mindset. That is that's key to how we're going to enjoy ourselves.
Sounds good.
All right, Richard. Call-wise, I have read a lot about what you're into, to be honest, and I'm really, really impressed with one thing in particular, which is the fact that you have something to, you have a passion for organizational change.
Absolutely.
I see you actually studied that.
Yes.
So if we look at our country like a big organizations, I'm pretty certain you have a 2020 vision of what's going wrong. You know?
I think there is a lot of research out there, qualitative and quantitative, as well as behavioral and experiential, that you can reference as a case to prove what's going wrong or what hasn't been going as well as it should have for the benefit of the citizenry of that particular country. So I suppose without any prejudices of going straight into the questions, I think one of the questions you were asking pretty much underscores that particular point, and I think it's your question number one that you're probably going to pose sooner than later. Points to the fact of things that are not going on so well, and they haven't done, if truth be told, since the country gained independence. What I like about this conversation is one of the ways of managing change is conversations. However, conversations for the sake of conversations is no different to academic research. I have moved away from that. It is more about channeling these conversations in order to translate them into actionable goals for the purpose of achieving change, for the purpose of making impact, and for the purpose of changing society for the overall benefit of all. That is the lenses from which I'm looking at life and society right now. And that is what inspired me to want to come on board your podcast, because you said New Nigerian, let's keep the conversations going, and let's see how we can articulate those conversations as a collective force to make impact and make change. Anything different to that, then you can count me out. Fact.
I can categorically tell you right there that that's the alignment we are needing, and that's what we are about. There is no point talking about things that have failed and constantly bashing our politicians. No, we have to be able to define a narrative that would be suitable for a lot of people to align with and say, yeah, I like that thinking, I like that path. Oh, it's novel, it's new, About society, right? You mentioned about, hey, look, you know what, you're a champion in terms of understanding society and how the changes within society can more or less be articulated, right? Nigeria as a whole is a big society, right? I'll start with, let's go through politics, then we'll go to success stories, right? When you look at politics in Nigeria, right, I'm under the impression that grassroots politics is a really, really key factor in defining our future. Now, from your point of view, how would you first of all just define what grassroots politics you think it is? The reason why I'm asking that for that definition, because I've had about 20 right? And all of them are as valuable as the previous one. This means there's a lot of people with different ideologies or different opinions about what grassroots politics actually is. And there are a few who don't know what it is and would like to know. So from your point of view, before we, what is grassroots politics?
For me personally, grassroots politics is about getting involved at the grassroots level. It's about championing a cause. It's about mobilization. It's about reaching out to the people and taking a temperature gauge of what their expectations are and what constitutes good governance at that particular level. A case in point is looking at the case reference of Nigeria. I can guarantee you today, if you took a temperature gauge of the grassroots level, what we call the local level of society, or at the local government level, I can assure you a lot of the constituents do not even know who their representatives are.
That's very correct.
Not purely because they don't want to know, but it's pretty much perhaps aligned to some of the stuff you've already said. You've got a class of people who, unenlightened or unaware.
Yep.
They are unaware, and yet on the day of election, on the day of voting, they actually queue up to vote without understanding what exactly they are voting for, or who their representatives are, or what their representatives actually stand for, and how it can percolate from that level of representation to their primary needs. And that is not this, and I think one of the reasons why that happens quite easily is because of inequalities in society, lots of ignorance, and what people call stomach infrastructure.
Yep, of course.
On the day of election, they queue up and they vote. So in terms of grassroots, I think the first thing is to raise a lot of awareness.
Right.
We need to create town hall meetings that are vibrant,
right.
Town hall meetings that don't only talk about politics and just politics for the sake of it, or election, but politics that educates,
right.
Politics that speaks to the people, politics that is articulated in the local language, politics that is broken down to how society is evolving and why it continues to evolve, and the impact in the important role each individual community, hamlet, or home has to play in ensuring they make the right choices.
Well, you see, what you just explained to me now, a few politicians lack that ability to deliver such articulated expression with regards to what politics is.
Yeah.
We already know that is a problem.
It is.
Right? The reason why I asked that question is because there was a challenge I and a few other people had going. We said, I can bet you we can speak to 50 people. They will tell us what definition of politics and grassroots levels is, but we can address 3 politicians and they might not even be able to be as articulate as the people who are just regular guys on the street like you and I, right? And that came into fruition because last week we had a call. I don't know if you've been privileged to come into one of our calls we do on a weekly levels, right? We had one where we had politicians more or less defining the state of grassroots as an understanding between the people and the politicians. So the politicians can say to you, you know what, on the day, our tally is 500 naira for you. That is an understanding that they seem to have. We have 500 naira for you as long as you vote for us. You have 500 naira. Then somebody else will come and say, okay, I've got 1,000. So you sway that. So politics on the grassroots from their point of view is obviously who has the highest amount of money to share.
Absolutely.
Now I've been absolutely surprised if you're giving that definition, obviously, wrong with it. But to be sarcastic, we can highlight that. So in the light of that, I'm pretty certain you know exactly where the influence can come from. So how do we, from the diaspora exactly, how do we influence a political structure? If you use an organization's analogy, obviously, which you are more or less an expert on that, how do we kind of like tailor that to fit into the influence of politics as a collective?
I think in Nigeria currently, and perhaps it became worse since 1999.
Sadly,
there has been a paradigm shift of what politics should look like, feel like, and be experienced. Politics that is progressive is actually designed to be a social contract between the citizenry and those who are vying for elected offices. For example, here in the United Kingdom where I live, you will probably find that most people who go into politics, they already have a profession or a competence or a trade or an industry sector where they have actually made some significant impact.
Yes.
And they are now moving away from organizational context and wanting to transfer some of those skill sets, behaviors, and resource focus that they have put in organizations that paid their wages up until retirement or up until such a time where they felt there needed to be a social change, to now go back into the community and contribute to the dynamic progress of society.
But that's based on the fact that they actually want it to work, not for their gains.
That's exactly the point I'm getting at. So whereas the opposite is the case in Nigeria, and that is what I meant by it's meant to be a social contract. It is not. So we have what we call an endemic culture where someone who has never, actually, they cannot even tell you how the construct of a building should look like.
Right.
They cannot manage their domestic affairs. You probably find, with all due respect, they're married at home, but there's never peace at home because they do not know how to manage their relationship. They do not know how to manage their children. They do not know how to invest, how to have meaningful conversations in order to demonstrate the fact of value within the family. Suddenly, he or she has money, or bluntly to put it, some godfather, they are sponsored. And now imagine that character with deficient behaviors now seeking to vie for public office, whilst they couldn't manage a square foot in their own small space, now wanting to manage a bigger arena. That is a structural flaw in our political system. Our political system is throwing up the wrong individuals. And that is why one of the things you're asking is, how do we now begin to engage and the diaspora? The diaspora need to have engagement with politics. If we continue to remove ourselves from the polity of Nigeria, such as a lot of us are doing because of our personal experiences, because we cannot see anything good, biblically speaking, coming out of Israel, and we cannot see us moving towards Canaan land, even though it has been a dream for as many of us as possible, and there is a massive wave of brain drain leaving the country because of the abject levels of poverty. Everything is done on godfatherism instead of merit. Kleptocracy is the order of the day. Then Nigeria will collapse, because the absence of good men means rogues and criminals will therefore enter the space. We can't afford to do that. So we need to form a lot. We need to be far more engaging than we have done up until now. There is no point saying, oh boy, careful, oh, don't go to Nigeria, they will kill you. And that is another argument. It is an argument that favors those who like the status quo to remain exactly how it is, because it is for their own benefit. So I think the key word, just to summarize in all of it, the key word is we must find levels from which to engage. It's about engagement. It's the first step to managing change is engagement.
Right. I mean, Richard, one of the key things that you've highlighted here is when you talked about that brain drain. You see, when we kicked off with the Nigerian idea, because that's what it is, we talked about the reverse brain drain. When we look at what has happened to us before, willingly, we come here.
Absolutely.
Some people were forcefully brought here.
Yep.
Regardless of what the situation, you get to a particular status. I'm talking about us in diaspora now.
Yep.
And you begin to realize that, well, hang on a minute, you're in a society, it's all working smooth, but you're from a place where things are not working.
Yeah.
You look at it and ask yourself, what is the challenge? The challenge is, okay, let's reverse that brain drain, that psychology that we think is there, or situation, and see how we can enhance our engagement, right? In order to keep this conversation going, because it is, I mean, there's so much we can say and do that will be thrown under the bus as soon as we get back home. But what
Absolutely.
I know for a fact that cannot die is an idea and a conversation.
Yeah.
Because that can be amplified continuously until
Yeah.
it gets into a level of fruition.
Yeah.
Now, to highlight or summarize what you said, that means there's something missing.
Yeah.
If we're going to enhance our engagement, if we're going to, use the reverse brain drain ideology, education seems to be a key factor and is a common factor in all the calls and all the conversation I've had. Education seems to be a very, very key factor, right? Do you think that is missing on a level in Nigeria? I don't know if you've been watching recently things happening in the courts in Nigeria. It's an eyesore, we agree. It's a shambles. But intellectually, 2-3 days after analyzing it, you see that you're having more people making fun of the situation and making movies and videos and music about the situation rather than engaging about it. So do you think there's an educational gap there that maybe the diaspora can help to start rekindling?
Absolutely. To use your example of what's been happening in the judicial system in Nigeria, it's one of the failings of the Social Progress Index.
Right.
It's a highlighted metric in Social Progress Index that if you have a robust judicial system, you are working towards having a society that demonstrates total commitment to human capital development. Because whilst we measure progress in economic terms and using a lot of economic variables like gross domestic product, the sum total value of goods and services that generates money for the country, it is not the only measure available for evaluating how well a society is doing or not, as the case may be. The issue of the judicial system is one other measure or something that points to the fact that the system is not working. It is very unequal. It is on a downward spiral. Yep. And there is a lack of trust in government and for government officials. Hence, some of the video clips you're talking about, some of the comical or comedy shows, narratives that are now in the public domain are quite hilarious, because where a people cannot articulate their grievances in a formal, structured way that will have mileage, they create spaces and avenues, and one of which is cultural creativity. So what you are expressing or what we are experiencing or witnessing is a cultural creativity using ironies and using a lot of parodies as an avenue for people to articulate what they are actually experiencing. So, but the question is, who is listening?
Yes, I was going to say that.
Who is listening? Yeah. Exactly. So who is listening and what are they doing with it? But I will tell you from a cultural perspective and given our social norms of value system, no one is listening because it's fun. It's fun. It does not resonate with the leadership. Mm-hmm. Because our educational system, now this is coming to your question, our educational system has never been wired in such a way and manner in which knowledge as a component of the growth of an individual or the collective of society is used or applied to manage change for progress collectively. Our educational system from time had been wired to show who passes, who fails, who comes first, who comes last, who is well educated and who is least educated, because that within our educational system, you have a lot of inequalities. Whereas the educational system should be very broad-based to identify the potential of the individual in such a way and manner in which you can actually differentiate those who have the academic ability from those who are creative and innovative minded, and design your educational system in order to address the needs of the individual so that progress is sustained and that inequality is reduced to the level where it is as low as reasonably practicable. Like, you know, we have here in the United Kingdom, if you are not good academically, there are vocational institutions
100%.
you will drop straight into.
Thank you.
And consequently, the guy who is academically oriented might go to university to study law, but you who is creative might go into some technical vocation through an apprenticeship scheme, well-documented technical academic pathway. Right. And by the time the graduate qualifies, you are probably already a manager in your vocational sector.
I mean, that is a path that I know not one, not two, 100 people that have gone through that path. Yeah. You know, the missing key when you, taking it back to what you said, that cultural creativity highlighted education as the missing link in between. You're right. There's a difference between educating somebody to pass an exam or segregating somebody who has failed because maybe they were sick on the day. You know, than actually instilling in them the educational values that is needed to change society. Absolutely. It becomes a laughing stock, right? It becomes a laughing stock. You said another key thing there, right? This is just part of a conversation. You see, everything you said, have you read any of that value in a manifesto by a politician?
No, I haven't.
There you go. You know,
I haven't.
Exactly.
I haven't.
You see what we're saying? You see what the problem is?
I haven't.
We are having a chat because we know there's value somewhere. You said it at the beginning. If these conversations are not had, if these engagements are not enhanced, people will think they don't exist.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Yes. Another form of education is highlighting and enlightening people about stuff. Absolutely. Simply telling somebody to go to this place and watch a video or go here and listen to this guy, it's a form of education because they can get there, get the value, and then decide to enhance themselves based on what they've just heard, you know? Now, we take it back to another level, right? In terms of Nigeria, now, based on everything that we've discussed, there is a level of success that is attached to what we are doing, right? That success is either something we've envisioned to happen or something we're currently working on, or something that we know in our dreams because of how we grew up, where we grew up, or basically how we grew up, we can get back to that. A slight story I was telling a lady a while ago was, I grew up in Benin, right? Okay. And when we were kids, this is way back about 6, 7 years old, going to primary school. On the radio, you would hear an announcement that there's a pothole on a road somewhere.
Yep.
Then, you know, warning the driver.
That's right.
Situation, so everyone is safe. Yeah. I don't think that happens anymore. I don't think people will have the time to analyze the effect of a pothole, you know, on this in the community. That can actually cause a problem in a community.
Oh, absolutely.
Have that. So that is a success story that I've aligned with before, and I know we can go back to that level of informing people about good stuff. So from your point of view, based on, you know, what you've done, I've gone through a lot of your accolades and I've seen how intellectually you've immersed yourself and engaged yourself. Yeah. So you must have an ideal success story for Nigeria. You must have a vision that, you know what, if Nigeria changed, this is what I want it to be. Can you give us a snippet of that and see if we can unlock that value and maybe liaise it with a link between what others are thinking?
My vision for Nigeria is simple. Actually, as I speak, I was contacted by an international company only last night. It's a biochemical company based in Singapore, Malaysia. I'm not quite sure. I've not read the details of it. But the fact is they've actually discovered through their lab technology a lot of micro
organisms,
like antiviral antiseptics that can reduce the impact of coronavirus. And they contacted me, they want me to try and push it into Nigeria and whatever. So I said, look, I need to go through this, I'll come back to you. So this afternoon I had a chat with them and I said, I don't know, I have 1 or 2 people I can speak to, but I'm not holding out my breath because going through the federal level it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle because there are so many variable factors involved. So we had a good laugh and he said, do your best and leave it at that. And I said, but be aware, there is a possibility there are probably 1 million similar type of briefs that people are looking to push through as well. So do not think your organization is unique. But I've read their profile, I've read the product, I know what it does, I've seen the adverts. It's fantastic. It's something that I know we need and will benefit the citizenry. But I have my reservations, and my reservation is, do I really trust those in government? And that is, like I said, a social progress index. So coming back to your question, what's my vision? My vision is, if the diaspora really are keen to want to make a difference, I think we can do it, but we must ensure that we are doing it off government platform. It's time for us to go in.
When you say off, does that mean
off government? In other words, we cannot place our trust or hope in the government as the vehicle or the points of access. We identify the area of need, even if it is one, we go in there. I already have a project I'm working on. God sparing my life. I've put all the enablers in place. Coronavirus was a blessing because it put a stop to it. And my vision is to open it up, all being well, in 2022. And I have confidence in saying it. It's an empowerment program for young graduates, where we can create a mentorship platform. And I will invite key people globally, both in Nigeria and wherever. It will be done in such a way and manner in which we will know who you are, because there will be a data set that you will need to complete. So we hold your data in line with global best practices, and we will run a check to ensure that we are not bringing irresponsible people to come and be mentors. In the same vein, we will have a way of assessing and evaluating the mentees, because at the end of each year, it is designed in such a way in which the best person, given the different metrics we're putting in place, will have some kind of monetary reward against which they can invest in an area of competence where they have provided a project management document evidence to show they have the competence, they have the skill, and above all, they have the passion for that industry sector, however little it may be. So all of that is something I'm already working in the background. We've set up the firm and all that. So it is that kind of value that I will be looking to add to Nigeria, because of the levels of unemployment, because intelligence or merit is no longer a guarantee for success or access, because there is a generational gap that is wasting away. When you look at the profile of majority of our politicians or those in government, public sector especially, you have people who no longer want to retire because of economic and fear of economic hardship. They no longer want to retire because they do not know if their pensions will be paid when they retire and what will be their quality of life. So therefore, you see them manipulating or falsifying their age in order to be perpetuated in office. And yet, you have the younger generation, young graduates who should be going through as a pipeline of succession, wasting away and being used as tools or agents to continue to destabilize the society, cause friction amongst communities, create disharmony, in order to continue to serve their masters because of the issue of stomach infrastructure. So that is the area that I have a lot of passion in. That is the area I want to invest in. So is that niche market. I believe that if we can tap into that niche market of young, vibrant, educated folks who've already got a foundational education, they become the voice of the community.
Okay. You see, why I was keen to speak with you is because there's an alignment with not only with myself, with the platform, with everybody that we've spoken to under the new Nigerian ideology. I explained to somebody the other day that we are not trying to bring out a new individual. Even if we're trying to drive a conversation amongst us individuals to say, what is this new mindset that we need to adapt? What is this new alignment that we need to have? That new alignment is what gives rise to the ideology called the new Nigerian.
Absolutely.
Now, you said something that's really key to what we actually do, or rather trying to push forward. mentoring. You see, mentoring is different from teaching somebody or from preaching to somebody or from educating somebody. It's actually making sure somebody is guided in the right path.
Absolutely.
Based on the fact that it's inspired by somebody else who has done it. You know,
Absolutely.
we lack that completely. We lack that intellectually. I'm not saying it's not there. We lack it means it's not enough, right? So we lack that intellectually. We lack that based on structures. We lack that even as individuals. There are some individuals out here who don't even know that they have the ability to mentor others because of that gap that is still prevalent within our society, abroad and in diaspora. In view of linking that, your success story aligns with ours on a very, very high level because we are driven to engage mentors, you know, and bring mentors on to have this conversation. We already do that on a weekly basis where we say, okay, you jump into a call. It's so unstructured because we need you to unlock your own value and bring that for others to more or less absorb. That way, you're mentoring not only the people you're talking to, anybody who jumps on the platform. So it becomes sort of like a mentoring platform. So yes, I really, really am keen to learn more and really see more of what you're doing. But the most exciting thing so far about yourself is I know you have an invention going, sanitizer.
Yes.
And to me, that is an enabler for change. The angle we are coming from, if you invent something, you cause a change.
Indeed.
Regardless of what the thing is going to do,
Absolutely.
right? You cause a change because people are going to wonder and think, if this guy did it, he doesn't have two heads. Maybe I can do it.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you can tell us a little bit about, you know, that invention. I know it's a sponsored program, or what actually kickstarted that idea, because we're out here in the diaspora and we're doing our bit from the outside in. So what kickstarted that thinking? And then that would take us into bridging the gap between Nigeria and diaspora where we can round things out.
The thinking was a simple one in the sense that I just felt when we look at the developed societies and especially, let's take a case study of the United States of America with the high incidence of COVID-19 rates of death. As terrible as it is, one could argue legitimately that one of the reasons why we are aware of these figures is because of the availability and accessibility of information. Information is key. Awareness is powerful, and the use of the media, again, free press, which is another subset indicator of a social progress index, freedom of press, freedom of the media to address or bring to the fore of the consciousness of the citizenry of issues is perhaps one of the other reasons that has magnified the US cases of COVID, both in terms of numbers as well as deaths. Now, is it possible? I don't know. Is it possible that in Nigeria, there is a denial of truth? A denial of truth in terms of the true numbers of or true cases of COVID-19 patients, both in terms of symptomatic and asymptomatic. Is it possible? I don't know. Perhaps it is not a deliberate attempt. Perhaps it's
that question, or were you?
Oh no, this is just—it's a rhetorical question.
Cool. Okay. Because I have
perhaps this. Oh, fantastic. Go on. Let's hear your answer.
It's not a case of whether it's possible that these numbers are being tweaked. It's a reality. I can tell you that. I'm from a family background. So I've got cousins, uncles, dad, mom who are in the medical field. And I can tell you for a fact that those numbers are not what it is that they're saying on ground. So yeah, I'm just trying to answer that.
Fantastic. So if you have that kind of anecdotal evidence to say convincingly that it is being massaged, the way I perceived it was we have a problem. Yeah. We have a problem because there is a high level of poverty, which means people will naturally, or the majority of people will naturally gravitate to alternative, untried, untested, unproven, unsuccessful methods of trying to tackle symptoms that they have not even diagnosed, because that alternative does not have any methodology or framework in place for analyzing the symptoms. So like you go to a babalawo and you say, this is what I am experiencing.
Yeah.
It means little or nothing to the Babalawo. Whatever they have given the person who left before, who was suffering belly ache, is more than likely what you're going to get concocted and put together for you. If you get well, what a result. If you don't get well, what a shame. So we have that there, and which means those people do not have access to basic care because there are no basic health care facilities in Nigeria. It's a very capitalist society. And even if you went to a general or a public hospital, apart from not having access, there are no facilities. Apart from no facilities, there are no doctors. Apart from no doctors, you probably are prescribed or diagnosed with something and offered or given a prescription, and you cannot afford to buy it. It is on that basis, and looking at what has happened in the West, what are the simple truths? What are the simple truths for reducing the risk of contracting coronavirus to as low as reasonably practicable? It's wash your hands, wear your face masks, maintain social distancing. Out of this, we needed to do something, and the gap we plugged was creating a sanitizing machine that can be installed at places where you have a lot of people congregate, like churches, because we're very religious, like mosques, because the average Muslim will wash their hands, feet, and whatever. But if those organizations install our product or equipment on site, it's a way of allowing their worshippers to be able to interact and engage in confidence. And more importantly, it speaks volumes about the organizations that choose to install these equipments at critical sites, because it talks about them being responsible. It talks about the fact that they value the social contract between the services they offer, the products on offer, and the safety and well-being of their targeted customers or whatever. And the other side is it gives confidence to buyers or the worshippers or the users of the services, the fact that where I am going, it is a safe place to go and conduct my business, because the risk of contracting coronavirus, the organization has put precautionary measures in place for me to feel okay. All I need is wear my face mask or covering and maintain whatever COVID-19 secure protocols the organization has put in place. It is as a consequence of that that we saw that gap, because we knew it was not a gap that was being addressed in Nigeria. Everybody was like building some isolation centers. In other words, you're expecting people to contract it so that you can move them, but nothing was being done. Face masks, yes, it was going out, but sanitizers, you had to buy your own. How many Nigerians on the scale can actually afford sanitizing agents, which have now ramped up in prices, given the recent economic value as a consequence of the pandemic? So we're putting the onus back on organizations to show that responsibility, to reinforce their social contract with their people, either at the top government level or at the medium of government, at the local level, but is looking at it with a collaborative eye or lenses. That was what drove us to invent 100% local content equipment or device that is fit for purpose, does not require solar, does not require electricity. It is operated by the individual simply by putting their foot on the different bespoke pedals or pedals that aligns to the different function of need.
I mean, you see, all I was thinking about when you were doing this was, this guy has empathy, you know, because without empathy, you can't really think on those levels.
Yeah.
You know, it's because we are here in the diaspora. There's no reason why we're doing what we're doing, you know, trying to give back, if you don't have empathy, which
Absolutely.
is something that I know sometimes we can say is missing with our leaders.
Yeah.
Have an example. The scenario you just played out to me, right? There's 10 leaders in Nigeria that can come and run away with that project and make sure every local government area, everybody, this is them using their own money,
Absolutely.
can afford to do it. And
Yes.
but because of that lack of empathy, they can't see preventive measures that can save people. Instead, you're looking at how to solve problems that you know are definitely going to happen. Okay, let's build more hospitals. Let's build more beds. You know, when you can actually prevent this thing. Obviously, there's less
Absolutely.
money in preventing things because
Yes.
they make more money in treating their people.
Absolutely.
So we have a problem, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the back of that, Richard, you know, it's been an exciting conversation. You know, obviously this being our first one, that
Yes.
gap that we know is missing between, you know, the Nigerian diaspora and the Nigerians at home. Can you please highlight for us, if you can, right, just for the sake of one-to-one engagement, what is the key value that you think that we bring as a collective from the diaspora, or we should focus on in terms of dealing with Nigeria as an entity?
I think empathy is definitely something we need to put back into fatherland, if I may say so. But I cannot. It would be disingenuous on my part to accuse or put the blame on any diaspora Nigerian who doesn't want to invest or want to do anything back home because of their unique experiences.
Exactly.
And the experiences are varied, from frustration, loss of capital investment, terrible bureaucracy in government, red tape. Actually, there was an article, I read a Carnegie article about a new taxonomy for corruption in Nigeria, which highlighted up to 28 subsets within the system or society of corruption. Every sector, they pretty much diagnosed every sector as being corrupt. Now, corruption is not only about money.
No.
It's about, it could be as little as a deliberate or a willful attempt to just prevent the system from doing what it should function to, what it is designed to do, and knowing full well that you can do it with such impunity and get away with it because the judicial system is not as robust as it should be. So I think if we do not, as a collective diaspora, begin to look for ways to get into the Nigerian space and transfer a lot of our competencies in terms of awareness of global practices, in terms of exposure to what exactly good looks and feels like, in terms of how society should function for the benefit of all and not for some, in terms of helping people or moving people from position of unemployment to a respectable level of employment because each individual has a skill to or something to offer. In terms of contributing to conversations about the total revamp of our educational system by way of moving it from reading, writing, and arithmetic to education that is value-driven, education that exposes you to such a level where what you have learned is mainly a basis. What is key is how you now transfer that, and the assessment is actually transfer of that knowledge into society should be the basis for assessing your capability and knowledge. If we don't do that, I am sorry, perhaps not our generation, but our kids and grandchildren, they will only get to hear that Nigeria was destined to be a great country. What you see today in the different media space about what is happening in Nigeria, sadly, is indicative of a society that is in what is called parallax snap mode. That parallax snap mode is gradually, that elasticity will soon snap back. And when it does, I fear what the repercussions will be. I am grateful until now because we're not in the military era anymore. And perhaps someone said the military has been politicized. If we were in the military era, I couldn't see, looking back, how the military would not have taken over already.
Yeah, another set would have taken over. That was
without a shadow.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of that. So I'm grateful they haven't. But the politicians need to wake up. They need to understand that they have a social contract with Nigerians. That social contract at this point in time is not being fulfilled as an obligation. There is still a lot of mess going on, and they need to clean up their act. Whether they will do it, I don't know. Someone said the reason they probably would not be inspired to want to do so is because all their kids, all their families, all their assets are in the diaspora. So who cares?
Awesome. Ritchie, can I ask, not ask, can I put something in front of you? You know your mentoring program.
Yes.
Now, is it possible? We would like to follow up on that at some point because
Yes.
there's complete alignment from a diasporic point of view.
Yes,
To see
absolutely.
exactly how that is structured and
Yes.
how we can not necessarily help, but how we can affiliate in terms of enhancing that engagement. That would be a key point for us, honestly.
Yes.
If we go back to just before we round up, because I mean 1 hour is almost it's gone like 30 minutes. Honestly, I just want to continue listening because you don't get this kind of conversations on the regular, especially when it's not commercially driven. This is another key angle. If I highlighted all that thing, now the link between diaspora now and Nigeria, do you think, just on a final note, on an end note, do you think that can help amplify our education in Nigeria? Do you think us coming out, giving enough empathy or doing things like this, communicating largely, putting ourselves out there to say, look, it's possible to be like this. So I know this Nigerian living in Germany. If this guy was living in Nigeria, trust me, he would be a perfect Nigerian. Do you think we can, transfer that kind of education and knowledge that we're experiencing here to help the educational system?
Yes and no. It depends on the environment. If it's in the public space, the answer is no. In the private space, the answer is yes. And I'll give you two practical examples. As you know, I've had the privilege of being exposed in that environment.
Right.
What sadly I have discovered is they are not driven by value.
Yeah.
They are not motivated by value.
Right.
Value to change, no.
Yeah.
What I have come to experience is a lot of involvement is to do with pecuniary gains.
Right.
And that points towards a structural flaw. Yeah. The structural flaw is you've got a high cost of living in society, high cost of goods and services, and low wages for people who see themselves as agents of change or lecturers or teachers or whatever. So the teachers who are meant to be the agents of change don't get paid well. And because they don't get paid well and goods and services are quite high, the natural tendency for each human being, as you know full well, is self-preservation is a priority for every human being. That preservation mode, therefore, forces a lot of them, both those who have good moral standards and whatever, forces them to become easy prey for bribery and corruption, to pass a student who is not doing well, to take money from a parent whose child is not been at school for so long and yet they want you to make sure they pass. And because you are preserving your life, because it's key, because the government is not paying you well, you are therefore, I don't know how to say it, whether you are bullied, you are coerced, or you are therefore influenced, because at the end of the day, a lot of them, their thinking is, nobody is watching me, or guy, I hope this thing will not go out.
I think you're impacted there by that.
Exactly, integrity is missing. So yes. that is a flaw. In terms of us going in, like I said, if you go into such an environment and you are trying to tell them to maintain integrity, I call it the 7 Nolan principles. Mm-hmm. If you go into that space wanting to get involved or engaged using the 7 Nolan principles, of which integrity is one, transparency, accountability, leadership, honesty, and a whole set of values, proposition to go in, you will be disappointed. However, if it was a privately run university or organization or academic environment, such as I know, they will listen to you because they want to maintain a competitive edge. Okay. They will listen to you because they need a comparative advantage, and that comparative advantage, they want to ensure it is measured as a key performance index, and that is something they will use to engage parents, prospective students, and the wider community, and all of that feeds into, if it's depending on the level of primary board, suburb board, or the university's commission or whatever, so that their ratings can be at a high standard because there are stakeholders involved.
Can you not apply that to an ideology then? that same structure going in
Yes.
on that level? Can that not be applied within an ideology and filtered back into the country?
It can, and I think it's already happening in some of the, like I said,
Or just
um,
yeah, I just
a
needed
close
that
friend of
assurance.
mine, yeah, a close friend of mine is the director of marketing and communications for Babcock University.
Right.
We have conversations all the time. I send him information, I provide insights and whatever, and I know he tries to feed that into the university. And I've looked at the university structure, how they analyze their key performance index, how they measure it.
Right.
Fantastic. But in most public institutions, if you think I'm telling a lie after this program, go to any of the websites of most public universities in Nigeria and go through their profile and see if you will find key performance index. And let me just give you a few. A, attendance levels for students.
Yep.
B, quality or feedback or evaluation report of students on their lecturers or the academic environment.
Yep.
C, the quality of academic or the quality of hostel accommodation facilities as part and parcel of the environment that they're studying in and as an aid to effective learning.
Right.
E, a comparator index between how they are performing in terms of the subject areas against maybe one or two other comparator institutions.
Yep.
Of the same standard to see how they are doing and what the gap analysis is that they are working towards as an improvement index.
Awesome.
If you find that, please let's talk again.
I'm not gonna find out because I already know. The truth of the matter is, I mean, next week, for instance, on the New Nigerian podcast we are having on Saturday here, the actual sector we're focusing on is education.
Fantastic.
So it's kind of funny you said that, because while I was writing those things, because something came up for that attendance level and that quality feedback is non-existent within this normal university sector. It's something that we have to constantly introduce either as an ideology or best practice or ways of working that we have already experienced out here. And so, okay, if you guys are not running away with this,
direct.
Okay, that's all right. If you guys are not running away with this kind of thinking, then there might be a problem. So, Ritchie, you know what? To be frank, I don't know how you are for time going forward, but I would really like an engagement that will be focused on that particular sector when it comes to education and unlocking that diasporic value, using it as feedback. You know, so I mean, it's been a fantastic 1 hour.
Thank you for the invite.
It's amazing because you start off the conversation and say, let's have a chat. And we say let's have a chat, right?
Yes,
I don't want to interview anybody. I want to unlock value.
Yes.
So that anybody who listens to it or anybody who says, hey, look, have you spoken to this guy? I'm like, yeah. I know what it's about. So please, thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you too. And
keep in touch in terms of going forward on that level.
Yeah, that's definitely. And just to add something,
sure.
It was because I did a gap analysis.
Right.
That is one of the reasons why I decided to set up this particular foundation I'm talking about, because my gap analysis showed quite clearly from what you said, there is a gap, huge gap in our educational system. And in more ways than one, there is no value. So people go through it without experiencing any learning, without any avenues for transferring learning into a practical working environment where they can be assessed and they can be evaluated. And we're not talking about just assessing the academic content, but also evaluating the human behavior.
Yeah.
The ability to behave in a responsible, in a structured environment where they have ambition to go and work in, exposing them along those lines. And hence, part of what we're looking at is this mentoring, where the mentors, look, all our mentees will have what we call a learning log. And for each phase of the journey, they will need to produce a 1,000 word reflective account of what they experienced as part of that particular section, what they got out of it, how they are going to utilize it, how they are going to measure it, and where do they think they can actually apply it. So these are the things I'm working in the background with a few people I am bringing on board that I will be having meetings with. But everything in terms of the foundation is already set up.
Yeah.
And yes, I will be inviting you
please,
to definitely come and play a part. Yeah.
Like I said, education is something we're going to be talking about next week. And if you're free, please, you know where we are every Saturday, 7 o'clock, because we're going to have a lot of educators there.
Fantastic.
My take on it is quite simple. Education is not just the ability to know stuff. It's like someone rightfully said, it's, you tell somebody what to do, how to think, and how to behave so that they don't violate the rights of others. So you get whatever you want to get, but you just don't violate the rights of others. That to me is an educated individual. Other facets and other attributes of education can come with accolades and money, man, work, and all that. But the key thing is getting what you want without violating the right of others. So, Richard, I can see from your persona that from a new Nigerian point of view, you have so much we can work with. So let's keep the conversation alive, please. And if you can, feel free to whenever get in touch and say, hey, look, can we address this, or can we throw this for other people to talk on our behalf, and then we'll feedback to you. Brilliant,
Definitely. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you have a great week ahead.
You too. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.